Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. Welcome to the Friday evening monk chat at the Empty Cloud Monastery. We are happily in New Jersey with cold winter mornings, cold winter nights, and lots of darkness at night. Welcome to What's Your Vector? Julie from Quebec, Chintana from San Francisco, and Ryan from Peruvian Rainforest, and Mrs. Sri Lanka. This is a time for your questions, so type the question into the chat. Here's a question from Ryan. Welcome also to Janaki and Gregory. Ryan asked, Dear Venerables, could you clarify Anapanasati practice, please? I understand it has 16 parts, which are 4 progressions of absorption on each of the 4 satipatthanas. Is this correct? Likewise. The meditation is supposed to take us to the jhanas, correct? Yes. The 16 steps of the Anapanasati Sutta, the first 4 are awareness of the body of the breath, or the material base of the breath, which is the most easy to see. In the Satipatthana Sutta, under the first foundation of mindfulness, the contemplation of the body, there is repeated just the first 4 steps of the Anapanasati Sutta. So in that way, it's matching up perfectly. That the first 4 steps are one way, almost an ideal way to practice contemplation of the body. Why is it ideal? First of all, the breath is continuously changing, and it's also continuously repeating itself, breathing in, breathing out again and again. And in that way, it's easier to keep the attention focused steadily on something which has got that gentle movement, rather than somebody might find it more difficult to focus on a strictly static object like a color kasina or something like that. And then the second thing that makes the breath meditation kind of universal is that for most people, the breath is pleasant. And if you follow the idea of the whole breath body as being sensitizing, having in effect, you're feeling the breath is pervading the entire body. So the in and out breath is pervading the entire body, and one can be aware of, in effect, not just where the breath is obviously moving, but that the whole body is breathing. For many people, that's a very pleasant sensation. It's a pleasant meditation. Some other meditations, like contemplation of the corpse or something like that, could be challenging in a way. If somebody's reacting, that it's difficult to keep the mind focused on something if you found it to be unpleasant. But the pleasant quality of meditation helps us to stabilize. Then the second set of dhammas in the Satipatthana is about Vedana, and it starts with breathing in aware of piti. So piti is the you could call it a joyful interest, or it could be translated as bliss, or that piti is typically associated with the first jhana. And so if you are practicing the breath meditation to enter jhana, then this is describing what one could experience within the first jhana. Within the first set of four, it culminates with the idea of calming the breath body. And then with the second set, it has the idea of calming the Vedana, or the feeling associated with the breath. And so at each step, you're practicing coming to deeper levels of tranquility. Then in the third of the Satipatthana, which is about seeing the activities of the mind, and again, so that's comparable with the Chittanupassana, the third set of the Satipatthana, and it culminates with calming the mind. So in each one of these cases, the pattern is direct awareness and calming or relaxation. And you could say that calming instruction is making the Satipatthana even more clearly a samatha type practice compared with the Satipatthana, which has the refrain about insight, about seeing the arising and cessation, seeing internal and external, and are coming to bear awareness of each one of those objects just as it is, just knowing with awareness there is a body. But whereas in the Satipatthana, there's this explicit instruction towards calming, and then that calming would help to stabilize in jhana. The last set of contemplations are really about wisdom, and you could say that the last set is about enlightenment. So having the perception of impermanence, having the perception of letting go, or of cessation, I should say, and that cessation is the cessation of dukkha, or the cessation of the cause of dukkha. Having the perception of patinissagga, or a relinquishment, that is a further evolution from cessation. So when you wake up, if you're still alive, so you're still experiencing the world of samsara, even though you've had this transformation of experiencing cessation. And so then, being a living sentient being in this world, there are so many opportunities for craving, or different kinds of reactions, or toxic thoughts like could arise, but they don't, because you've relinquished them. So you will not again pick up those negative patterns. So that's what that relinquishment is about. Having experienced freedom, you don't pick up the negativities again. And then the last is Vimutti. What's the last?
I don't remember them off the top of my head.
Yes, I think it's a freedom, and so the freedom is the freedom, and again, those really are almost like a model of what is described when they speak about the awakening of an arahant. They speak about going through exactly these steps in the mind and the moments coming up to enlightenment. You are not yet even in the neighborhood of the noble attainments. In a way, in my opinion, if we don't fall into the trap of grasping our craving for awakening, it's nevertheless helpful to have some kind of model of what it's going to be like when we wake up. And then it can easily happen just because of impermanence that sometimes you will have a moment when the causes of dukkha are not active in you. Just because everything is impermanent, the causes of dukkha, the craving, that could be, it's everything is arising and ceasing. And so you will experience long before you even get noble attainments, you will experience moments of having a taste of what it's like when the negative patterns within stop. And if you recognize that, or if you recognize having let go of something negative, I'm sure that all of you have got some negativity, some bad habits, some bad behavior that you used to do, maybe when you were a kid, or when you were a teenager, or when you were a college student, or when you were a young person and you didn't know any better, and you had some bad habits. But now you've given up those bad habits, and actually you may be not in danger of picking up that bad habit again. Even if you think of doing some, foolish thing that you might have done as a child, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't go there. So you have relinquished something. So if you can recognize this pattern as being what's given in the text, given in the Dhamma, as being the pattern of what one can experience approaching the ultimate goal of our spiritual path, then you have that as a model. And it's like it can become an island for you. So I think that answers that question. Chintana says, should one learn about Mara? What do you think?
Well, if you mean about the Mara that you have in the suttas, you don't necessarily need to learn about his particulars, and there's not a whole lot of details anyway. But if by learning about Mara, you'll mean getting to learn your defilements and the different tricks that your mind will play, I think that's good. A lot of the time, Mara doesn't even need to do anything. So should Mara, any of them arise to try to bother you, if you've already started to become familiar with your own habitual patterns, then you'll be more equipped to deal with it when potentially more creative new things that haven't happened before arise. So if in that way, then yeah, absolutely. Learn about the different things that can show up that try to take us off the path.
It may be good to recognize that Mara is also impermanent. And it may be good to recognize that Mara is not as powerful as Satan is in Christianity. So it's not an exact one for one. So if anybody listening has some kind of a feeling that there are powerful evil forces, that they're threatened or in danger from evil forces, they should know that Mara, as the representative of evil, is not that powerful. All you got to do is just say, Mara, I see you. And then he will slink away sad and disappointed. Yeah. Dear Aya, what explains best the jhana, ecstasy, staying out, the state of stillness, free from emotions, or withdrawal? Are all of these? Oh, is it ecstasy? Is it a state of stillness, free from emotions, or is it withdrawal? Or is it all of those? The first jhana is said to be accompanied by piti, which is a very strong, very strong, pleasant state. That pleasure associated with realizing that one is experiencing a seclusion from the hindrances, or freedom from the negativities. So the negative states, it's not just that you have them temporarily suppressed, but they're coming back at any moment, but that at that moment they're really, really, really gone. And having the taste of freedom, realizing that it's not necessary to go through one's entire life being constantly prey to different negative patterns, that it's actually possible to really be free from those negative patterns. And so that's the first bliss. And then the second bliss and happiness is associated with a unification of the mind. And subsequently, as the mind becomes, in a way, tired of bliss because it's too much effort or too much movement, and you want the mind wants something more calm, and so the mind lets go of that bliss and settles into a more equanimous type of happiness, and then even happiness or even pleasure becomes too much agitation, and the mind is like it's bored with that, and then is able to let go of that. And then in the fourth jhana, it's characterized by a neutral feeling tone. So it's neither pleasure nor non-pleasure, accompanied by extremely clear sati, and a profound equanimity, the profound sense of stability or unshakability in the practice. And so at that level, you don't anymore have that bliss. I'm not quite so the jhana is a state of stillness in the sense that it's not disturbed by hindrances, and it has a stillness in the sense that it has the unification of the mind, that like what we call mentality. There's like quite a lot of different activities happening in the brain, and corresponding different features of things that are happening in the mind, like many different factors that are coming together at any particular mind moment. In particular, there's like um, feelings, contact, consciousness. That's just the knowing factor. There's volition and perception. So mind is like a complex, committee of things happening all the time. And so the unification of, to me, the way I've heard it just described, and that makes sense to me, is that like all of the factors are together. All the factors of the mind are together. My teacher describes it as a mountain, a lake that's been created by putting a dam on a stream in the high in the mountains, and so there's little streams and so forth that are coming down the mountain and collecting there in that lake, and it's held back by that dam, so it's got that stillness, and then what comes through I guess this is a hydroelectric dam, so what comes through the turbines of the dam or the channels that are letting the water out is really powerful. It's like super powerful. So the mind has got a sense of power also because of that unification. And but I don't say that jhana is free from emotions. I say that jhana is free from afflictive emotions. It's free from emotions in one sense. One of the ways that people get distracted is when you are emotionally stirred up. Eventually, strong emotions culminate in forming some kind of volition, like you've got to do something about it, like I'm so mad I could explode, or if I'm got so much irritation with somebody or something that then I have to go fix it, or else I have so much remorse that I have to jump up and write a letter of apology, or I have so much love that I have to go and hug the baby or mommy or something like that because I'm so overwhelmed with love. So those emotions do lead to volitions, but they, to the extent there's an emotion in jhana, the emotion is helping you to stay still. I mean, there is the form jhanas have got, the body is there, the pleasure and the bliss is there. So there are emotions there, but they're not emotions, definitely not afflictive emotions, and not emotions that culminate in going out of meditation to do something, but rather, what's your volition? Your volition is to remain, to stay in the meditation and to see clearly what's going on. So that's my idea about that. One is withdrawn from one is gradually letting go of different factors. So you let go of the hindrances, you let go of thinking, of applied thought and sustained thought. You let go of bliss, you let go of happiness. And so one by one, different factors of different phenomenon in the mind are let go of. So that's setting the pattern of releasing and letting go, and the mind becoming more and more simplified. So that's my idea about that. Okay. Gregory, I have a hard time using the fourth foundation of mindfulness, Dhammas, as a subject of meditation. how should the hindrances or set spaces be practiced with in meditation?
So I can talk about the hindrances at least. Um, the one of them that I'm particularly prone to is aversion, or like the ill will family. So if I had a lot of that going on at the time, or we can apply the same idea with other ones as well, but this is just the one I experienced the most, is I would pay attention to how it manifested in my body and in my mind. For me in particular, I find that my body is more honest about what is going on than my mind. So when I see that I have this hindrance pop up, um, I will then use that feeling I have in my body to end up understanding them. Um, Otherwise, in the past, historically, I would completely miss them. And that would then allow me to see more of what's going on in here. So by taking that first step, I'm able to understand what caused them, how I'm feeding them, and how I can work with reducing them. So that's what I tend to do in short form. But it looks like Aya also has some thoughts.
I do. This is one of my something I've been mentioning recently. I have the idea that we use the first three jhanas to develop the sensitivity, to develop the perception, to be able to discern the inner states in terms of the body, what's up with the body, what the Vedana feeling is, and what the state of mind is. And so you cultivate that so you can read what's happening inside. Then another aspect of Satipatthana is having previously learned the teachings of the Buddha, to recollect those teachings, to bring those teachings to mind. And my idea is that in the fourth foundation, actually, one might choose a theme, bring that teaching to mind, and be able to not just recall the teaching as a verbal thing or not just as an intellectual thing, but to see how that thought affects the state of mind. How does it affect the feelings? How does it affect the body when you bring that thought to mind? So with the sense basis, in particular, I think that teaching is about the six senses and the contact with the six senses and the fetter that arises from that. So what's the fetter that arises from contact with the feelings? It's something enters by way of a sense gate. There's a feeling arising from that. There's a perception that can come along under the influence of that feeling, and there can be a proliferation of a thought in further responding to that feeling that arose because of that particular sensation. So if you can see that, if you've been practicing mindfully watching, really closely watching the state of mind, and really closely watching these interactions of the phenomena that we experience, then you could literally see, like, you're in meditation and somebody sneezes, so that's a sound, and then there's a feeling or a thought that comes up because of that. It could be the thought of compassion, or it could be the thought of resentment, or some kind of a judgment about that, and or it could be something neutral. But the thing is that you can discern accurately that whole process of the touching of the sense and the arousing of the mental response to that. And then if you can see that very clearly, if those reactions are evolving into some kind of a proliferation, then you can see that. And if they're not evolving into some proliferation, if you're experiencing that in the herd is only the herd and nothing is proliferating from that, then you can, with mindfulness, you can know that. And that would be like a really fantastic breakthrough for you if you were able to have that experience of having some touch through the senses and having it just stop right there without any further proliferations. And the self-mindfulness enables you to see that. And the same thing with all of the, even the ones that know some experts tell us that like the expanded version of the Four Noble Truths is something that was added later, that it wasn't in the earlier versions of the Satipatthana. But I adore calling to mind the long description of the Four Noble Truths and letting them, kind of like wash through me and experiencing the effect that it has on the mind and body, bringing in those recollections. Okay, I don't know this. Do you know?
I have to go ask a scientist. What is quantum energy?
Yeah, ask a scientist. Venerable, are you familiar with the Ayakema style of metta meditation, offering light from the sun and the heart as one example? How does one practice metta to cultivate right samadhi? What is the bridge from visualizing offering metta symbols to jhana practice with metta as the object? So
I'm not familiar with the Ayakema method.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. The Ayakema method and some other similar methods are especially beneficial to somebody who's got a mental block about cultivating metta. Some people, even people who are like in a normal way, they can be kind and loving, but when they sit down on the cushion and try to practice metta for all beings, they sort of like freeze and they just can't kind of like locate it. And so the visualization like that is helpful as a kind of like just a starting point to get the juices going and to evoke the feeling of loving kindness. It's not too dissimilar to, say, the Ajahn Brahm's idea that even if you hate people, you could visualize loving kindness for a kitten, and that would sort of bring loving kindness to mind. And then once it's been brought to mind, then you can extend it without a boundary. I found the most helpful guide to using jhana as an entry to using metta as an entry to jhana is contained in Bhikkhu Analayo's teachings on compassion and emptiness, which you can find in his book, or I think he's got some online retreats with guided meditations about it. So rather than visualizing particular people or particular types of people, this is a meditation that is starting with the boundless, unlimited radiation of loving kindness in all the directions. And so that the simplicity of that practice and helps make that a suitable way to enter jhana. Bhikkhu Analayo has said pretty strongly that he feels a lot of Americans are too ambitious and they make themselves uptight, and they make too much effort in trying to get jhana. And then they beat themselves up when they don't get it, but it's because they're over-efforting that they're having a lack of success. but that the metta meditation, especially this boundless radiation of loving kindness, compassion, and so forth, is something that's much more attainable for many more people as a way to get to the first jhana. So that's the way to do that. Are the different schools of Buddhism fundamentally different in terms of what is taught to get to Nibbana? Or are the differences mainly cultural or outward expressions?
So this and the next question from Greg tie together very nicely. So when you're looking at the Buddhist traditions, one thing you want to look for when you talk about core teachings is, do they teach the Four Noble Truths? Do they teach the three characteristics? And do they have the Noble Eightfold Path? So if they have all of these things, then they would be a form of Buddhism. If they're missing any of them, they can be a little bit suspicious, or a lot suspicious, because there are different sects out there that call themselves Buddhists, but what they do isn't actually Buddhist. So in many of the conversations that I've had with Vajrayana friends of mine, the outward look of a lot of the practices for people early on in the path, and even at other stages, will look different. But it'll come back to those same core things, with the idea of being free from greed, hatred, and delusion. So that is super important for getting to Nibbana. And most of the debates that I have seen within schools tend to be about highly refined states of existence. So, like, are you going to become a bodhisattva, or are you going to become an arahant? Is an arahant actually more like a once returner? Because the definition of an arahant is different in the Mahayana world than you see it in the Theravada world. So sometimes there's that sort of misunderstanding. But despite all of that, there is a lot of overlap that can be very easily overlooked if you just see how they talk about things. Like something I think I said yesterday, but it was recently, was, at least in terms of the experience I have with Japanese Zen and Chinese Chan, anything that they have said, I could translate into something that somebody that is familiar with Theravada speak would be able to understand. So sometimes it's also just a difference in the way in which they express the different teachings. And then there are plenty of differences you can go to as well, especially if you start to get into stuff like Abhidhamma. There are so many different types of disagreement once you get into the logical and metaphysical side of things. But that starts to go more outside of the practice side of the traditions. You have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, that's good. Here's from Ryan. Forgive my ignorance, Aya. Anapanasati nor any type of meditation explicitly mentioned in the Eightfold Path, correct? Except to practice Samma Samadhi. Is the Anapanasati the instruction for Samma Samadhi? Well, the Samadhi, the mental cultivation part of the Eightfold Noble Path, is right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi. So all three of those are parts of meditation. The satipatthana is explicitly part of sammasati, which is the meditation just before samma samadhi. So, it's not that you first you do the one and then you forget about that and do the other one, but that one may do a right effort without yet possessing mindfulness, and then the specific method of mindfulness is is like added on top. And so when you have right mindfulness, you're like fully capable of exerting the right effort at the right time. So right mindfulness will tell you whether or not there are a wholesome state or an unwholesome state is present in you. And then right effort will tell you to abandon the unwholesome state and keep the wholesome states. So those two things are working together. And then adding samadhi on top of that, then what you've developed in the previous two is integrated into samadhi. But the anapanasati is most explicitly parallel to the satipatthana, which is part of samasati. And then the sama samadhi is most frequently explained in terms of the four jhanas. That's and the four jhanas is the instruction for sama samadhi. The Venerables, regarding concepts. Am I understanding correctly that with concepts, we cannot see the three characteristics because we cannot see the arising and ceasing of concepts? That's a great question. Go ahead, what do you think?
So I think you can see the arising and ceasing of concepts. You just might have to pay attention to them over a longer period of time, and it'll depend upon what the concept is. So with mental concepts in particular, you can see your or other people's opinions about them change, and it might take a long time for certain ones, but other ones could change like a flag in the wind. So those concepts you can see arise and ceasing quite frequently. Other things, like I have a concept of a computer. If you had showed this to me when I was in school as a little kid, we didn't have computers like this. So the concept of what a computer looks like, how it operates, how quick it is, like this doesn't have dial-up. I grew up with that. The entire concept of a computer has changed completely since the time that I was a kid. Where like I have this cushion in front of me. I have a concept of what it looks like, and I expect it to look the same. But at some point, if people continue to sit on it, the fabric will tear. So that will break the concept I have about what I expect this cushion to look like. So just looking for the way that they shape or they change over time and what you expect from it. Because if the expectations start to change, or if you see that you have one, that can start to put a lens on what isn't permanent. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I once heard a very respected secular Dhamma teacher mention that some concepts are permanent. And he was thinking about like the concept of pi, not the pie you eat, but the ratio of a circle to the circumference to the perimeter of a circle. It is certainly true that you can find in the suttas the statement that whether or not the Tathagata exists, that it is always true that all things in samsara are impermanent. So that's a concept. So, and it's stating right there that the concept of impermanence is permanent. So you have a permanent concept of impermanence. But actually, how we were able to understand even something as basic as impermanence is defined by culture. And impermanence, dukkha, non-self, existing in this modern time and space with like the way we see information is completely different than the way it was seen during the Buddha's lifetime. What we can know, like through the media, what we can see and know about impermanence, or the impermanence of the entire universe. It's just the Big Bang Theory or whatever, to say that this universe was came to be in a particular moment, and it's going to disappear. And knowing with the certainty that we know that eventually the sun's going to be sucked into, the earth will be merged in with the sun or something like that. There are, even though the three characteristics are given in the suttas as being permanently true, nevertheless, the way we were able to see them is bound by our culture, and the culture is continuously changing. There's a big debate about whether our concepts like good or bad. There's a certain way that a concept is like a reduction of the actuality of the phenomenon that you experience in the moment. So the mind is not able to encompass the totality of all of the details of whatever's happening at any given moment of time. And therefore the mind selects out certain signs or markers to define what that moment is about. And we sort of go through a process of continuously testing. So, and those markers chosen by the mind, those are the concepts that we hold, and we test our concepts to see whether the concept is a good predictor of reality or not. So the Buddha does not condemn concepts. Instead, he's got a very practical approach that we should look for concepts which are in accord with reality. And even in meditation, it's really precious to be able to discern that moment when some phenomenon has arisen for us that's pre-conceptual, that you've not yet put a label on it, not yet understood it. It's just an experience that comes up before the mind has formed that concept. But then at the same time, the sutras are filled with many, many dozens of concepts which are brought to play in our contemplation, in our meditation practice. And so the Buddha says, use these concepts together with your direct knowledge of experience as fully and directly as possible. So that's the last question I see. I know we've had a wonderful long day with the visitors here. Several of the visitors have been helping to redecorate the library in the basement of this monastery. And I'm beginning to feel a wonderful vision of that room being a place for learning. Having the Dhamma books and the tables and the seats to sit at and the good light to read by, and a place where there could be a small class or something happening. But just to say that when you come in this room, you would recognize Kalena Dhamma Savanang Etang Mangalamutamang. To learn the Dhamma at the right time. This is a supreme blessing. So I know that the people here must be tired because you had a long day with so much meditation practice and so much practical work. So I'm happy to call this an evening. Sadhu, 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 anumodami.